Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Robyn. Goodness. They can't hear the recording in progress. It's on everything now. Teams meetings. It's always reminding us that we're being recorded always.
Recording in progress.
Recording.
Yeah, it does. It's crazy.
Or Teams says, you are now recording. Please make sure all of your participants know.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it like reminds you to remind your participants.
Funny.
Yeah. Anyways.
Today's episode is on volunteering.
I am super excited. You suggested this, like a week ago, maybe?
Yeah. So at where I currently work, we have a mentor-mentee program, and I am being mentored by somebody at a higher level. And then I am also mentoring somebody who's an analyst who wants to progress. And a part of the training has been established by the organization, and December is volunteer month. And the person that I mentor with, she and I have been talking about what should we do for December for volunteer month. And I just kept thinking, I don't know, because I volunteered in September, or sorry, for December, but I said I volunteered in September, and that's really the only real volunteering that I could think of. So I thought, well, maybe what we could do is we could talk about volunteering, the reasons why people volunteer, the reasons why people don't volunteer, and then some statistics. So I thought that could be a pretty interesting episode.
I think it's a great topic, and I also think it's very timely because this is the time of year that I feel like there's I feel like there's a lot of volunteering that happens around the holiday season. Because I think it's a time for, and maybe I know you've researched, but maybe it's the time. I think part of the reason people do it this time of year is because we are thinking about how grateful we are for the things that we've got. And so at least during this time of year, people seem to do a lot of volunteering at places that maybe help people who are less fortunate than we are. But I don't know. I'm interested to hear your statistics on it.
Yeah, I struggled to think about when else have I volunteered? I've always been a participant. So any of, like half a mile or half a marathon, I've done that. I participated. I haven't done a official 5K, but it's some of the other events that go on throughout my lifetime. I've never volunteered. I've always been in the event.
So when was September like the first time you just volunteered in a long time?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Honestly, like probably ever.
This is going to be a cool take because it sounds like you don't or you've always been a participant volunteering. And then I would consider myself until very recently like a chronic volunteer. Like I love volunteering for stuff. It's my favorite thing to do. I always say when I have enough money and like I can have so much passive income that I don't have to work, like all I want to do is volunteer.
Tell me about that. I find that fascinating.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. It may just be that like it was instilled as a child into me, but like my parents, well, my mom used to volunteer for a lot of stuff. And so I just like would do stuff. And part of it maybe was I grew up in the United Methodist Church, and there's like a lot of things that we would go do like as a youth group or something, or like as children. So like my mom would volunteer for VBS, which is like Vacation Bible School for those who don't know what that stands for. But I would like, especially in youth group, we would do these volunteer trips where we would go, and I guess is mission trips considered volunteering, I guess?
I would think so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We would like go and rebuild like trailers and go clean up, tornado damage. Like I would go and we would find these places that have tornado damage and help families clean up tornado damage. But then, as I got into college, I would go volunteer doing all sorts of stuff. Like we have a place that I worked at where they take people who are formerly incarcerated, they're in a halfway house, and we would go like make dinner for them. And then I helped volunteer, like teaching classes, like financial classes to formerly incarcerated people. And then I would I've volunteered with like tons of animal shelters. Like I love walking dogs, but there was a dog rescue that I volunteered for that I got my dog from actually. But I volunteered with them for like 4 years, every Saturday, clockwork. I would go and walk their dogs, and I managed their Facebook page for 4 years. Like, but I did it all for free. It was really fun though. Like it didn't feel like work because I loved doing it. But I mean,
I think that's the magic.
yeah, if I wish I could remember every single time I volunteered, because it is something I love doing. It's so much fun.
What what is the value or what is the joy or the feeling that you get? Is it before volunteering? Is it during the volunteer session or is it afterward? Or maybe a combination.
This is funny because I feel like I'm being interviewed.
I know,
It's
I'm sorry.
this is not what we meant for.
Welcome to the podcast, Ashley Allen.
Yeah,
Tell
this
me
is
about
about
your
me. I'm about to
volunteering.
interview you too.
Oh yeah, my turn's coming.
Yeah, well, you're coming too. It's funny because I don't know. I think each place I volunteer has a different thing, but actually, like now that I'm thinking of the question, I feel like the reason I like volunteering is because I always get something out of it. Not like in a sense of like recognition. I feel like I love volunteering because I like meeting people and like learning something from them. Like especially when I volunteer at like halfway houses in the past, or when I like, oh, for instance, like I also volunteered for a company. I cannot remember. I think it was like the Nashville Adult Literacy Council. And I did this in college for a little bit, for a few months. And we would basically, how I volunteered was people would come over, refugees, and then like just people immigrating to the country would come over, and they would not know any English and would need to learn English in order to get jobs. And so one of my jobs was like to help teach these people English, which was, I'd never taught English to anybody, but I helped them go through their little workbook, and we would do something called Conversation Club, which was super fun. Like every Wednesday we would go and we would just talk. It was like a big round table, and we'd ask questions to the people. And I feel like I learned so much about their culture and just what their background stories. Like it was so much fun to just learn a different side of people. But just like everything, I like feeling like I can help someone, even if it's just, I like to know that that's a little vain, but I like to know I want to help people somehow. That's just something I love doing, is like helping people learn something, like adding value to their life, because at the same time, they're adding value to my life. I've learned so much. And then, when I work with dog rescues, like I'm adding value to the company, but also like I feel like I'm getting so much out of it. It's like a win-win. I think that's what draws me to volunteering, is like I get to add value, but I also get something so great out of it.
I I think that's beautiful, actually. That's really, yes, that's really nice. And thank you for all of your volunteering hours because holy cat, it's like cat rescue. That's a lot of volunteering hours.
I wish I could. I think, yeah, because I've even in high school, I was part of the International Baccalaureate program, and we were required to have a certain amount of volunteer hours, like to graduate. And so I think that's probably where it started, but it's like, I think it never stopped because I liked it so
Wow.
much. But
I did think of two things that I have other volunteering. One is official, one is not. At one of my previous organizations, there was a group of doctors and basically lab or admin staff, and I was one of the lab admin staff.
Mhm.
And we went to a shelter and we would give medical care to homeless people. And a part of the reason that I wanted to do it was because I had such and I will admit, a bad stigma on the
Mhm.
homeless, and never understood why people would
Mhm.
honestly want to be homeless. And
Mhm.
working there, I was very open-minded when I went there because I
Mhm.
really wanted to learn and I wanted to understand why would you, and especially in Wisconsin, it gets incredibly cold
I
here.
can't imagine.
Why would you ever want to be homeless? And I was educated beyond belief. And
Mhm.
it actually, I can't believe I didn't think of that earlier. It is
Yeah.
really one of my experiences that I really valued because I
Mhm.
learned so much from it. And I too really got a great satisfaction from helping other people.
Right. So it sounds to me like, yeah, you have the same thing where it's like, I feel like in every instance I volunteered, and sounds like for you too, there's like a sense of going in with an open mind and like learning from the experience, because I can't think of one time I haven't volunteered where my life hasn't been enriched
Mhm.
somehow from it. Like you learn so much, you are humbled oftentimes, you
Mhm.
become very thankful. Like it is just, it's making me want to go volunteer, and I haven't done it in a long time. I
Well,
volunteer for things at work sometimes, but
yeah, you do.
like
You're always volunteering. Now that I think about it and
I
what you
volunteer.
tell me, yeah, you volunteer a lot. And the unofficial thing is I love to volunteer, or I love to volunteer. I love to babysit dogs because
That's a yeah.
we don't have any animals and I really miss it, but I don't want to have a full-time animal. So when I get to
There you
babysit,
go.
like tonight I'm babysitting Popeye,
The
and
best.
he is the cutest little pug ever. I should put a picture of him up on the
You should be our
website.
mascot.
He
I'm
could
making
be.
it.
Popeye and Sasha. And
Yeah.
Sasha is the neighbor's dog that I love to watch. And I don't want any money for it. I love being around animals so much. And it just gives me such great joy
Mhm.
that
Yeah. You can't
it's
help but smile sometimes. I've never, I mean, there are sad instances where you volunteer, but it just brings so much happiness to my heart to volunteer for things. And I'm sure you notice it too, even if you don't do it as much. It's like you
no,
still
but
get,
now I want to go do it.
yeah, where would you volunteer next? Like, do you like, for me, I have like 1,000 ideas of where I would volunteer constantly. But like, do you have ideas of where you would even volunteer? Because a lot of times it just lines up with your interests.
Yeah, I would for sure volunteer at the Humane Society. But the
Yeah.
problem, the reason why I don't is because I'd want to take all those animals home.
Yep.
And it would break my heart to hear the reasons why these animals were left at the shelter. And then
Mm-hmm.
I would want vengeance, and then I would be the equalizer or Dexter
This is
Morgan.
why I
And
love you.
yeah, so I can't do that because I have such a heart for animals that
Hmm.
I wanted to be a vet, but then I knew that there was a math requirement, and at the time I was
Yeah.
terrible at math. So I never became a vet, but yeah, that the other thing that I love doing is reading. So
Hmm.
literacy, and I would really
Yeah.
like to, and I did look into it at one point to be a volunteer to help kids or older adults learn how to read or to read better. So that's something that
Yeah.
I'm pretty passionate about. I haven't thought about that in a really long time.
There are, I think, other ways you can I mean, literacy is a huge one. Yeah, if you could just read at a library and, just to kids, there's so many ways. And um like other animal things you might think about too. I volunteered at a nature rehabilitation center in my freshman year of college. It was called Walden's Puddle, and you would have loved this because you didn't have to worry about the thought of taking animals home because they're wild animals. You couldn't take them home. But they would basically in Nashville, like if you live in the Nashville area, it's called Walden's Puddle. And if you have like a baby animal that's injured or like an orphaned animal, you call them or you take it to them. They either come pick it up or you take it to them, and they nurse it back to health, and then they release it back into the wild. But like I got to volunteer there for like 6 months, and my job was primarily just making their food. But it was like the cutest thing to see, like baby deer, baby hawks, squirrels, possums. Like I have such a soft spot for possums now because they are just the sweetest little
Mhm.
things. And then also, this is another, you might like this too. Before I was not allowed to have a dog until I was 10 years old. That was a thing that my parents, they had made sure I was very responsible before I could have a dog. So before I had a dog, I would like borrow a friend's dog at my church. We had this thing called PAWS, which stood for Pets Are Working Saints. And a bunch of people with this group would go to nursing homes with these like really well behaved dogs. And then basically the dogs would go and visit these people in these nursing homes. And it was the sweetest thing. And my mom got me involved with that because I loved dogs, but I couldn't have one. So one of the ladies there had like 4 dogs, and she would she would let me take her dog, which is a Sheltie named Sugar. And I would walk with her name was Tammy. I would walk with Miss Tammy and Sugar and go and do this. And I was like 5. Like I was so young. So that's actually probably the first volunteer thing I ever did. That's probably what got me into it now that I think about it.
And you loved it so much that you wanted to keep
Oh
giving to
yeah.
others.
I probably did that until I was 10. Like that was probably my first, and we would go there like every Saturday and go visit with these people, and just watching them, like they're much older. They were like 80, 90 years old in these nursing homes, and watching them pet these animals was just like, you could tell because they can't have animals at these homes. And so it would just it moved me so much at a young age. But you would probably like that too.
Yes, I could could
You
for
could
sure do that.
Someone could loan you a dog like mine. And that's actually when I ended up getting a dog, I ended up getting a Shetland sheepdog because of Sugar, the dog that I had from the volunteering.
Oh, that is
But
so
like,
sweet.
yeah, Miss Tammy was like one of my first huge like mentors. Like now that I think about it, like she's someone who like I looked up to because, she used her dogs for like good, and it made me so, and even as like a 5-year-old, I recognized that.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that story.
Yeah. I haven't told that story. Like I have so many pictures with Sugar and Miss Tammy. I'll have to share one. But
Yes, we'll put it up on the website.
yeah. So from your standpoint, like you take part of a lot of things where people are volunteering. Like how is that, as someone who's a participant, what is the importance of that to you, and why is it like why is that so exciting to you to see people volunteering? Because it provides value to you.
It does. Yeah, it does. Really with Iron Man. So I was asked by a
Yeah.
friend to she had put out on Facebook, "Hey, does anybody want to volunteer for Iron Man?" And the first thing that went through my mind was, it's about time that I volunteer because I'm clearly not doing Iron Man. So it's an event that was during I call it a free weekend or a rest weekend. I didn't have any plans this weekend, but it was, or
Mhm.
that weekend, but it was booked as a rest weekend. So I book rest weekends because you and
Mhm.
I are on the go quite frequently. And
Right.
normally, right around the end of June, somewhere in July, at least my calendar is typically planned out through mid December. I thought about it and I thought it would really be good to give back.
Mhm.
So I contacted my friend and said, I've never volunteered at an event like this. Like, what is the easiest job to do? Because I would feel horrible if I wrecked somebody's time because you're swimming
Yeah.
and
I
then
get
you're
that.
biking and then you're running. And if I did something that messed up somebody's time, because there are major, major
Milliseconds.
professionals that are running or that are performing in Ironman.
Mhm.
And I thought, I just do not want to ruin it. And they're like, no, no, you can't possibly ruin it. Well, I ended up at a food and water station, and it was by the lake because I love being by water.
Yeah.
And it was something that I knew that I could do. So I started at 9 o'clock in the morning and my shift ended, I believe it was at 1, but I stayed until 5 o'clock. And what I realized was that not only did I feel helpful and that I was supporting the community,
Mhm.
supporting Wisconsin with a very huge, large event, but I was also helping the participants when I was once a participant. And I
Mhm.
realized how important volunteers are.
Yeah.
Until I did it, I never realized it never occurred to me how important volunteering is and
Mhm.
how you do need that support and how you do need somebody to fill water glasses and put out some snacks for the runners.
And how half of the events we do require volunteers to some extent.
Yeah.
Like,
It was a thought, even though I'm in my early 50s, my young 50s, my
mhm.
early 50s, that I never even thought about my entire lifetime,
Mhm.
how important volunteering is.
And for everything, like if you think about just how many volunteering opportunities there are, you can, like you said, you can do anything from literacy to uh events like sporting events,
Mhm.
Ironman's 29029, 29029, right?
Yeah.
I always get the numbers mixed up. 29029, all those events. Then you have things like I volunteered with the Mill Creek Watershed Association. We would do things like boat launch builds and stream cleanups and things like that, tree planting. Like there are so many ways you can help your community that provide so much value, but it's like it could be anything you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those things like tree planting, maybe the city does that every once in a while, but it's really like people like you and I who can create so much change if you just have enough people that are really excited about something.
Yeah.
Like you can do all sorts of stuff.
I found that in my research. Are we ready
Oh,
to
yes. Let's
go
dive
through
in.
the research? Let me bring it up here.
Mm-hmm.
So this, and I will put this in our notes, giving credit where credit is due. This is coming from Western Connecticut State University. In its community service, top 10 reasons to volunteer. And basically all the top 10s spoke to me, and I'm sure that they'll speak to you too. Number 10, I feel like David Letterman going from, number 10 down to number 1. Number 10, it's good for you and it helps reduce stress and it makes you healthier. Number 9, it saves resources. Guess what the estimated value of a volunteer's time is per hour?
I used to know this. It's like $34.14 or something.
Well, I like your number better, but this
Oh.
one is $15.39.
Oh, okay. It depends on the volunteer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
that's
yeah,
still pretty good. That's still pretty dang good.
yes. So anybody, regardless of what the volunteering is providing value.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8, volunteers gain professional experience.
Yes.
So if you wanted to switch a career, you could volunteer in that area, let's say a librarian, and you could volunteer at the library to see if it really is something that you want to do, or volunteer in a kitchen, or volunteer, like you were saying, in the environmental area to see if there's any jobs in that space that you would be interested in.
That's part of not what got me my job, but I had a lot of experience working with like nonprofits and stuff in the water industry, and I have a degree in environmental science and water, but it has helped me in my current career. But I would say I was thankful to have that on my resume.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't get me the job, it was definitely bolstered it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see why too.
And I'm sure
Definitely.
you've had experience with that too. Maybe.
No, because I didn't volunteer. But yes, but it would. I can definitely
Many people that does help.
Yes, especially getting into colleges. Like you
Mhm.
had said, it might be a requirement, but it still is really good.
Mhm.
Number 7, it's something that you mentioned, it brings people together. So uniting people from a diverse background to work toward a common goal in building camaraderie and teamwork. And that is what we did, and I know that you've done that as well. All right, number 6, it promotes personal growth and self-esteem. Understanding community needs helps foster empathy and self-efficacy. So I thought that was really interesting.
I mean, you pointed that out with what you volunteered for. It's like you didn't understand and you went in with an open mind and had empathy and you learned.
Yeah,
It helps grow your mind so much.
it does. Number 5, volunteering strengthens your community. So as a volunteer, you help support families, you can help improve schools. Tutoring is another thing.
Yeah, you would be a really good tutor actually.
Be like, hey, figure this out. No, I would
People need a
be
strong woman in their life.
supporting the youth, so being a mentor in after school programs, and then beautify the community, which is what you did with some of your work in the
Tree
environment.
planting, yeah, and stream cleanups really help the environment around the city.
Number 4, you learn a lot. So volunteers learn things like self, government, and community. So with self, volunteers discover hidden talents that may change your view on your self-worth. For the government area, through working with local nonprofit agencies, volunteers learn about the functions and operation of our government. and community, volunteers gain knowledge of local resources available to solve community needs.
Yeah. These are
Number
all so good so far.
Yeah, I told you you'd like them.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, you get a chance to give back, which you and I have both talked about. People like to support community resources that they use themselves or that benefit people that they care about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I volunteered Ironman because I cared about the person that was doing Ironman. And you cared about doing things, even though you were really little, you still cared about making people happy.
Oh, that was the best thing is to like, because I loved being around dogs. It made me so excited to bring dogs to other people who couldn't have a dog. So it
Mhm,
was like that connection was made in my mind.
mhm. Number 2, volunteering encourages civic responsibility. Community service and volunteerism are an investment in our community and the people who live in it. And number 1, you make a difference. Every person counts.
I love that. I
Yeah.
I think too, you and I had talked about this a few days ago, and I think this point probably ties in closely with point number 3 you made just now. But it's like giving back to things you care about, because I think too, and we've talked about this just like spiritually too, where um when you feel filled up, you have enough, like when you take care of yourself and you feel fulfilled as a person, you have enough to give back, and you feel that sense of like, I feel, value. I want to give it back to the people around me. Like I feel fulfilled. I want other people to feel that same feeling. And oftentimes it's like, it's just a give and take. There are certain points in your life where you're filled and you can give to other people, just like when sometimes you're depleted, people will volunteer to help you out. It's just like a beautiful flow.
I
So,
think the other thing too with you and I is we're both very happy people.
mhm,
And when we're happy and we feel great, we want other people to be happy and feel
mhm.
great. And
Yeah.
that's the other sense that I got. I
Mhm.
can't tell you the number of thank yous that from the participants that were running Ironman. I was helping directing them. I was telling them where the water was, the Gatorade. So many of the participants said thank you. I really appreciate
Mhm.
you. And I
Yeah.
thought, holy cow, you've got to focus. Like you you have
You've got
several
a
more
race to
miles
run.
to run. Thank you for that, but now I need you to focus and I
Yeah.
need you to get to the finish line. But of course, I
That's
never
so
said that.
helpful to them because you're saving them 10 seconds. You're saving them 5 seconds, which in the long run, 5 seconds over 30 stops will save you
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
So
I loved
that's
it.
really exciting. Do you have any other plans to volunteer for any other Ironmans or anything similar to an Ironman?
I do. I want to volunteer again next year for Ironman. And now that I've done it once, I know that I can do different things. I know that I can be at different stations
Hmm.
because I really do want to help
Hmm.
anybody. I do know that one of the coaches for 29029, he was here in Wisconsin for Ironman. I did send a message and asked if there was anything I could do to help.
Hmm.
Obviously, he was coaching 5 different people, so he was not looking at my messages, but I do as I'm
Put it
going
out
through
there.
as well I did, I wanted to help.
Right.
I wanted to help. Now that I'm doing 29029, I can certainly reach out to him and say, "Hey, when you come to Wisconsin, is there anything else that I can do to help you?"
I think you really shine volunteer wise, I think. And what I see in you is you like to help other people reach their goals. Like that's something that I see very strongly in you. It's like, we all have our thing, but like I see you when you see someone who's like going after their dreams, you want to see how you can help. And that's its own form of volunteering. So,
That is honestly, that is true. I do give a lot of support
it
to
doesn't have to be
other
called volunteering.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. I like your sense of volunteering because you have such a wide variety of things that you volunteer for and to do because you like to do so many different things. And that to
Probably
me is super
sometimes.
interesting.
Yeah, it is very strange. I like trying everything. I think that's what it is too. It's like learning what you like and how and what you're talented at and like how can I cause the biggest impact. I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, like you have a completely different sense of like support and volunteering, but it's like something that you excel at, but people need that still, you know?
Thank you. What
Yeah.
is your next volunteering mission?
I don't know.
I know
I was
we
just
need to get on it.
we should like try to set a challenge, like volunteer every other month or something.
I like that idea.
I don't want to set once a month because I think that's maybe too aggressive to start off with.
Yeah.
Maybe quarterly we volunteer. But I was talking to Robyn briefly about this, I think before the podcast. I don't think we talked about it during the podcast, or unless I've lost my mind. But I really, probably for this year, I really want a greyhound one day. And I love dogs. And so I really want to volunteer with a greyhound rescue and help their dogs get adopted, because I just think they're such cool dogs. But other than that, the other place that I want to volunteer with is called Water Walkers. And I don't know, you may have heard of them
No.
from a previous friend, but they are a nonprofit here in Nashville, Tennessee. And what they do is, like, during the winter months, they provide like tutoring services to kids. They provide like school, after school meals, like study time for these like kids in the inner cities that don't have access to like these resources. But then in the summertime, which is really cool, like a lot of these kids who live in these like Section 8 housing don't have access to anything but their communities oftentimes. And so they don't get to go out and go on hikes and do these things. So what this company does is they take these kids and take them hiking, but specifically why they're called walkers is they take them boating and like get them doing water sports. And so it's this group of boats that like they rent out their boats like to other people to raise the money to then take these kids on like water adventures where they teach them how to like, wakeboard. And it's these like kids that would never have access to that any other way, but it gets them out and like experiencing life and teaches them things like being brave and jumping in the water, and teaches them these skills that are not really considered hard skills. They're like just they teach them to get out of their comfort zone. And I got to volunteer with them maybe 3 years ago, and I just volunteered with them, I think once or twice, and doing the tutoring. And it was something that I wish I could have continued. And yeah, I even talked to my company about it. We do this like thing where everyone gets together and we kind of brainstorm like what companies we want to support and stuff. And that was the one that I suggested. And so I'm like, plus I work in a water division. So I was like, I really think we should support them. And I know I was personally going to do it. So that's my goal, is to do something with them, hopefully in the summertime.
I love that idea.
What about you?
I'm gonna start doing some research.
Yeah.
For sure, do Wisconsin Ironman.
Yeah.
But then I am also going to do some research on how else I can volunteer. Something that just, because I love the animals so much, I think a wildlife would be much better for me, as you've already discussed. But you can also donate
Right.
towels or blankets or food. So that's another form of volunteering.
Yes. I think that's a really good point you make, because time is precious. And sometimes when you've worked all week, you don't want to spend time, especially if you have a family, you don't have time necessarily to go and like volunteer. You could, but sometimes it's more important that you spend time with your family. So it's like you mentioned, there are so many other ways to give.
Yeah. Lots of different ways to give.
Money, like you said, towels, resources, like it's all like a beautiful cohesive unit.
It is. I would love to hear what our listeners do for their volunteering, and if they do volunteer and if they don't volunteer.
Yeah. And the reasons why any of those three.
Yeah, I find it very fascinating.
Yeah. I need to talk to, it kind of makes me want to like poll around at like people that I know, friends and coworkers and stuff, because I hear they talk about volunteering very often, like different things that are important to them. It'll be like, I'm volunteering this weekend. I don't know. It's fascinating.
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear.
I know this might be one we have to have like a second
We for
episode
sure
about.
need to have a second. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on, I don't know what it would be about yet, but it sounds like a follow-up episode.
Follow up on volunteering.
Volunteering. Yeah, maybe like halfway through the year we can talk about where we volunteered.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. So we would love for you to check out our website, icandoanythingpod.com, Facebook us, email us. I can do anything pod@gmail.com, and Instagram. We're on Instagram. So please reach out to us. We would love to hear about, your experience volunteering, or just any other general questions, any suggestions for next episodes. We would love to hear. What about you, Robyn?
And if you like our content, please like
Yes.
and share with all of your friends, and we would love to see your reviews.
Yes, please send them our way. We're very excited. I'm down for
All
that.
right.
Well, this one was really fun.
I loved it.
All right. Well, to our listeners, stay awesome.
And keep reaching for your anything.
Bye, guys.
Bye.